Hi everyone, I wanted to create this video for you guys so that way it makes things a little bit more easier to kind of maneuver through this website as you are tackling TELPAS. And so by now you are familiar with preparing for the test. A lot of you have already added students. But there are a couple of additional pieces that I want to make sure that you guys are familiar with before that time comes. And so, like I mentioned before, you are familiar with adding students, viewing students, but once you have actually created your sessions, which I will go through that today with you, and let's say today is a reading online test and you get a brand new student and you need to add that student, but at the moment they don't have an ID for the system. What you would do is you would add the student right here with that temporary ID. So you fill out the same information that you usually fill out them with, and once you have completed it, you would save their information. It's going to give you that temporary ID, so that way they can go ahead and take that reading test that day. So that's that piece. The other part is knowing how to maneuver through the system. You have a couple of other options here. TA is where we will go next to complete our sessions. The DEI data entry interface, this is where you will go to manually enter in the students' ratings from their TELPAS writing or TELPAS alternate scores. Now, before I actually switch gears, what I do want to show you, however, is how to print your test tickets. It is easier to print them from the student list. So you would select the campus that you are focusing on. And then, of course, we're looking at the emergent bilingual students, specifically the ones that have been identified. And we search for those students and we select view results. And then right here in this printing piece, this is where you want to print your test tickets. Now, it's going to give you an option about the grid. Please be sure to select one by one, so that way it actually prints one student on each page. You also want to make sure that you are not doing double-sided printing, so that way we don't have that sort of mistake. So if you notice, this is the information that you're going to get for each of the students, and this is what they will need to enter in once they actually take the TELPAS test. So that is how you do that part. Now, before that, we of course want to do our testing sessions for TELPAS, and you have to create these test sessions so that way the session is open. You want to make sure that you create your test sessions. So think of them as it's a time of when you want to make sure that the test is available to the students, and specifically on what day. Now, the way that you can create your test sessions is you have a lot of different options. First and foremost, just as a helpful reminder, that so again, just as a friendly reminder, the online piece doesn't open up until February 21st, so you want to make sure that that at least is your first day, if you're planning on giving the test that first day. If you're not, then you can select any other time to do your test. But let's say, for this example, that first week, I'm going to take care of the reading in 3 days, the 21st through the 23rd. So I want to make sure that that's my the time of my session, and I'm gonna leave it for 4 p.m. on the 23rd. So that means that this test the TELPAS reading test is going to be available. Let's say I'm going to tackle my 2nd and my 3rd grade. You can do that. Or if you just want to focus on the second grade for those few days, then you can say, this is Walter's session, and that's when I want for the reading test to be available for her group of kids. So then, of course, this would be that session ID that the students will utilize to get in. So they have their student ID and they have their actual session ID. So it's 2 different numbers. And this is something that you can share. You can copy and paste it with people, but please remember that these sort of pieces of information are secure information. So you can print it out. It might be best to print it, to keep it in a folder, so that way you pass it along to the correct appropriate people. Now, the other part that I want for you guys to keep in mind is that whoever creates these sessions are the only people that can actually view them, which is why it's going to be best for you all to do your individual sessions and not myself, so that way you have more control of that. The next part is we're back in Tide, and now I'm going to go into the data entry interface. So this would be the place where you would actually enter in your students' scores. And so you pick your student, and this TSDS ID, you get these IDs from the system, from Tide. Each student, here's Abigail's, this is her ID, this is where you find that piece of information. And so you enter it in and you sign in. It has her information. Just make sure you have the right student, because sometimes they have the exact same names. And of course, right now it says that there aren't any tests available for her, because I also might not have her information. But later on, once it's time, this is where you would select TELPAS or TELPAS Alt for that student and enter in her ratings in here. So the very last thing that I need to show you guys is just the these last 2 pieces. Learning management system is the place where you will be able to find the trainings. There are different trainings here for your teachers who are your your TELPAS alternate raters. You go to teacher. Here under courses, this is where their specific trainings are, so they don't have to have the other trainings. And then for your raters, this is where they will find all of the different calibration sets for them, and along with their online basic training. So I'm pretty sure that at that point, that's where you guys have found that information with the links that I have included for you. Back to Tide, the only other piece that I want to just quickly show you from that drop-down menu is the CRE, I believe. It's the reporting CRS, Centralized Reporting System. This is just as a side note. This is where you would be able to get your reports once the scores are actually in. You guys might have already have been familiar with this. That's all I have for you guys, and I hope this information was helpful. Please let me know if you have any additional questions.